Hey everyone, we're going to get started in about 45 seconds or 30 seconds here, and Angel from our MAP Success team will give you a couple of things to hear, and then we'll get started. So I look forward to your questions. If you have any, you can put them in the chat box, and I'll go over probably a few minutes after just to answer a few. I can't answer them all, but in respect of everybody's time. And then if you have questions that you want to have answered, you can always email me also at monica@kw.com, monica@kw.com. All right, let's see. We're there. We're at the bottom of the hour. So Miss Angel, take it over and we'll get this great group started.
Awesome. Thank you, Monica. Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, The 5 Systems You Need to Build a 7th Level Team with VP of MAPS, Monica Reynolds. Please note this webinar is being recorded and you will automatically receive the webinar recording. If you have questions for your coach, please type them into the questions box located in your webinar taskbar. Following the webinar, if you have any questions about today's call or coaching programs, please email us at fasttrack@kw.com. That is FASTTRACK@kw.com. That's all for me, Monica. Take it away.
Thank you, Angel. I appreciate you. All right, so let's talk about this, everyone. So about 2 weeks ago, I did the 5 most important hires that you need to, and who are your first hires in building a 7th level team. So I've been in real estate about 40 years, and I was the listing specialist and ran a team with 5 agents on it and 5 assistants. And we did over 200 transactions a year. The rainmaker who owned the team, well, I should say the CEO, he never walked into the office, and Stephanie's on this call with me. He never worked on the business for 7 years, and every year he netted $1 million. So think about that. There were 5 agents, okay? He netted $1 million. So I want you to hear that, and he never came into the business. So I probably am the most profitable 7th level team that you could meet, that had a very small team, and we absolutely followed the economic model, we followed the organizational model. And over the years, because I've been coaching for 25 years also and selling real estate, I've discovered that, you know, you can look at this and go, what are the 5 most important systems? Well, there's probably 25 when you get down to it, but I thought I would just do a high level flyover. And as you're thinking about these things, think about where are we in our systems? How do we look in our systems? So the first one we're going to go to on this next slide is going to be communication system. So Steph, let's move to the next slide. And so don't worry, you're going to get all the slides. You'll get the recording because you signed up, so it's all good. And I talk really fast, so there you have it. So the first one you want to have down is the communication system. And so you're going, communication system. Yeah, so the Friday report, which I'll show you here in a minute, is basically a report where the assistant, the members on the team, the buyer agents, the ISAs fill out a form, and I'll show it to you in a minute, so you don't need to try to reinvent it, you'll see it. Basically 5 things I did to move the business forward, week high, week low, how'd you wow a customer? Very simple, so we're staying on track in communication that everybody is moving the business forward, right? The communication log, in a nutshell, is that every time the assistant makes a call to the client, it should be noted, because that is the person that is building that bridge of trust. So as you're building your team, that first executive assistant hire is doing the listings and is doing the closings. And in that, she or he has that relationship. So we talk about in MAPS now, RER, and that's relationship, experience, results. And so in the trainings that I do, I'm very clear about communication. So not to set you overboard, but I'm going to do it anyway. In the listing process and the sales process, I say they're paying 6%, 7% of the value of their home, whether you get the whole thing or not. They signed a contract for that. I say that you call them every day, and you keep it very simple, not you personally, but your assistant. So when you're building a 7th level team, these systems are critical. So if you do not have great communication system, there's a challenge. I believe that you should have a monthly meeting with your team, and you can bring some of your affiliates into that team. What did we do right? What did we do wrong? Did we hit our goals? What are our goals like? Goals and business plan. Every single person, especially this time of year, should be involved in the business plan. Every single person on the team has a business plan, and then you have the one team business plan. But everyone contributes with their business plan, and it folds up into the team business plan. KPA and DISC, that absolutely tells you how to communicate with your team members. The KPA is critical to assessing that they're in the right job match, they're in the right seat on the bus. And of course, the DISC personality helps you how to communicate, how you approach them, how they learn, how they like to have conversations. That's a critical piece. So those 5 success systems. So on the next slide that Stephanie's going to share with you is basically the Friday report. 5 things I did to move the business forward, week high, week low, what'd you do to wow a customer? And then there's the communication log. You cannot over communicate with a client. So when you're thinking about the communication on a 1 to 10, how is your communication between the team members? Is everybody on the same page? Everybody know the goals? Everybody talks about the week's highs, week's lows. What's the team communication? Then on another 1 to 10, what's the customer communication? So those are the 2 critical things to be thinking about what you need to improve. And of course, in my training, I go in depth in a whole bunch of different systems for that. If you look at the next slide, we're going to talk about the weekly team meeting, the monthly team meeting, the year-end planning. So the weekly team meeting should be at the same time. Now, if it's just you and one assistant as you're building your 7th level team, then you're going to have a daily huddle, like at 11 o'clock every day. Stay on track on your schedule, then meet at 11 o'clock, and maybe another one at 4 o'clock. As your team grows, the admin will have a weekly huddle, a daily huddle, and also the buyer agent should have a daily huddle. As far as the team meeting come together 1 time a week, 30 minutes, keep it on track. Do not bring problems to the team meeting. It's fast paced. Here's what's happening. Here's what we got to do. Here's the new listings. It's an upbeat meeting. The monthly meetings, this is where we talk about what we did right, the sources of business, the book we're reading. There's a great book right now that my team is reading. It's called Build a Story Brand. And then the other one is the 12-week year. I had it somewhere. I guess it's back in the other room. Building a Story Brand. And so we read these books as a team. So each month you should have a book that an agent would buy for their team, and you go through that. Year-end business planning meeting. And so those should be starting in October, November at the latest. I know a lot of people wait till the end, but don't do that because it's really important. Here's some guidelines, establish the date and time, and make sure that everybody's available. We always had binders for everyone with this year's information, and it always kept building. Like, as long as you were on the team, you could go back and reference the years before that. Make sure that you have your vendors invited, or they're supplying supplies or whatever it happens to be. So that's a really great way to look at communication on your team. If your team knows your goals and they buy into their goals and they contribute, you're going to get your goals. Okay. All right. Next one, let's go to the KPA and DISC profile real quick in communication. So you have to learn how to read a KPA. You should go to Career Visioning or this Perfect Real Estate Assistant. I go through a few tips on that. The DISC profile to me is a great tool. I also do make sure that anyone I hire, I do a DISC personality test on them. I just want to get to it. Are they a D, an I, an S, a C? So if you're not familiar with that, I'll help you with that. 5 systems. Okay, back into the listing system now. So we talked about communication. Now it's the listing system. So on a 1 to 10, do you have a pre-list package? If not, on command, they've got a templated one. I go through one. I have an excellent one that I've used over the years. You want to pre-sell yourself. It's emailed to the client. You can also print and drop it off. I believe in both of those is always a great thing. Always had a runner drop off the pre-list package before the day of appointment. You have to have a bulletproof listing checklist, especially in this day and age. You've got to set expectations with the seller. You've got to stay on top of that. Listings are simple and they're easy. You just need to hold the hand of the client and communicate on a high level. I believe in pass the baton. And pass the baton is where an assistant has a conversation with the agent prior to dialing the phone and talking to the client. Are they happy? Are they sad? Do they have kids that are, fun, or they're in soccer or whatever? Is the wife a music teacher? What do you know about them before you make that call? It's called that bridge of trust. You want to make sure when you make that first call, that seller on there is going, we made the right decision. These are the right people. Because when an agent walks out of the house, the husband and wife are looking at each other and they're going, huh? Did we do the right thing? I don't know. Let's see. Then when they get a call from the assistant within 1 hour, and that assistant says, hi, I wanted to introduce myself. Now, common sense, if the appointment's at 4 or 5, it's going to be the next day. But the assistant calls and says, I'd like to schedule a time. And in this day and age, I think you should schedule a Zoom call. That creates a whole nother bridge of communication. So I go through that in the training, showing how to do the Zoom call, what that should look like. So I want you to hear that, is that passing that baton to that assistant is then that first call to the agent, to the client, says to the client, yes, I made the right decision. Those are the right people. The agent leaves. You didn't tell them when it's going to sell, how much they're going to net, when the next showing is, and when to pack. There's so many unknowns. So that assistant comes through like a powerhouse. Showing form script. Now, I know a lot of you use Showing Desk or whatever, and you do it on the online, but I've got a better way, and there's a couple of routes on that I'll share with you. And of course, price improvements. So some of you are thinking, well, I just get a listing, it sells. Well, get ready. You got to have a price improvement system. And so on this list here, very simply, how do you rate yourself on a 1 to 10? These are the things that need to be in a foundational pieces. Remember, there could be 25 systems. I'm just sharing with you what my personal opinion is after 25 years of coaching and running the #1 coaching company in the world. I get what the first few systems are. So if you can say on a 1 to 10, you're a 12 on everything, way to go. Go check your other systems. So the next system that we're let's go to pass the baton, the next slide real quick. And that's motivation, kids, list price, personality style. It's always good to determine who that personality style is. And when you work with the disc long enough, you can go, that's a high I, that's a C, an engineer's a C, an art teacher's a high I. Who are these people, so that you can speak that language, your assistant can speak that language and be versatile when they're having that conversation. Assistant's first call checklist. I have a very detailed call checklist. They call within 1 hour, they go through the information. They then send them an email saying what they just said, because people only hear 25% of what you say when they're under stress. So it's call, email, call. I go through 21 days of scripts for that assistant. This is over-the-top customer service based on your volume, using common sense. There should be enough time each day to touch base. And the assistants always say, what do I say? What do I say? I give all those to you. But think about that in your communication systems. Think about your listing system. If you over communicate, you will build a client for life. They will trust you that you're on top of it and that you care about them. The next slide that Stephanie's going to bring up is the feedback questions. Now, there's 2 parts to this. I love it when an assistant will call an agent and say, I just need 1 minute of your time. Thank you for showing the property. Would your client like to buy the home? No. What would it take for your buyer to buy the home, to make an offer? Well, you'll need to move the house. It's next to the freeway. What if they said something that could be handled? Then that causes another conversation. We value your opinion. What price do you think the property will sell for? This is the feedback form that I have used for 40 years. I'm never going to change it. I'm not going to use the internet out, all these other things. I want to have the feedback, because we're also looking for, could this be a recruit for our team? They're showing property. Maybe I need to recruit them for the team. Maybe they're a recruit for Keller Williams. I mean, Keller Williams last month had one of the biggest recruiting months they've ever had. Over 1,700 agents were recruited. So get in line. Here we go on those, profit share and downlines. Had the 2 biggest profit share months in Keller Williams history. Hope you're paying attention. So that form is 2 things. But when you have a great executive assistant, as you build these systems and you build an operations team, and everybody's working in the same direction and looking at people who write an offer, whether it's accepted or not. Would that be a good team member? Would that be great for Keller Williams? There's so many buckets of opportunity. Okay, the next one. Let's go to the closing systems. All right. So on the closing systems, rate yourself on a 1 to 5. You should have a bulletproof checklist for closings. Pass the baton from the listing manager to the TC, to the buyer agent to the TC. How is that done? Is your office one of those where the seller goes, "Who are you?" "Well, John sold me the house. Why am I going to be talking to you now? What is your job?" "Oh, where's John?" Don't have that conversation. Think about the seamlessness when let's say a buyer agent says to the buyers, "Hey, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, thanks for picking up. I've got Stephanie on the phone too, or we're on a Zoom call. This is Stephanie. I want Stephanie to introduce herself and explain, what her hours are and what she'll be doing." Stephanie goes, "Blah, blah, blah. I'm in charge of the file. I will help you with all of the appointments, blah, blah, blah. And so could I call you back later today around 4 o'clock? It'll take about 30 minutes and I'll have your file set up then." That's how you pass the baton. And then the agent says, "Thank you so much. This is a great home that you guys have purchased and I'm always available. Stephanie has your file. Stephanie is in charge of all the appointments and keeping everything on track. So thanks for working with us. Stephanie will call you later today." That's called pass the baton. So I have all those scripts. Setting expectations on all the various different things from appraisals to the moving closing dates with the lenders to inspections and what happens during an inspection. I've got the most bulletproof systems for that. And over the years, I've perfected those. And so I'm going to ask you on a scale of 1 to 10, how are yours? And then there's that call every day. What, are you kidding me? No, this is when they really need you, where they're not going to pick up the phone every day, but I have all the scripts written for calling every day that make sure that you're their client for life. So remember this: relationship, experience equals results. There's nothing better than getting a repeat reform, or what I call it, a repeat and referral. "Oh, we're moving. Oh, we just bought our house a year ago and I just got transferred and oh, we're so sad." And you're going, "Yay," right? Or, "I'm getting divorced. Oh, that's too bad, And so here's the thing, it's relationship. So when you guys do over the top, especially during the closing time and your constant communication, this is how you build great systems. Reviews and referrals should be asked of the client. You should get a review from every single client. You should get a referral from every single client. By the way, thanks for working with our team. We so appreciate the business. May I ask you a favor? Our business is based on referrals from great people like you. Who do you know right now who could use our help in buying or selling? Well, that's the referral script. The review script's about the same. Thanks for working with us. Can I ask you a favor? That was so nice what you said about blah, blah, blah. So I teach the assistants that when you're putting these systems into place, that when someone says something nice to you, whether it's on the listing, whether it's on the closing, you strike while the iron's hot. And you say, "Oh, thank you for saying that. I love to hear that. Thank you so much. May I ask you a favor? If I email to you a Zillow link or a Realtor.com link, would you give us a 5-star review, our team? I so appreciate that." So you ask for them when it happens. You don't wait till the last minute. So how do you rate yourself on these systems? Do you have a bulletproof checklist? Are you passing the baton so that client feels comfortable with the next person they're talking to? Are they going, "Huh, who are you?" Are you setting expectations in all the different processes? Are you calling every single day? Not you, your executive trained assistant. Reviews and referrals. What's your percentage? Why isn't it 100%? So if you go to the next slide, here's the TC, pass the baton to the DC by the buyer agent, which I basically went through. So you have that script. And so basically the bottom line is that you want it to be a smooth transition. You're professionals. You are professionals. I prefer it too, that the buyer agent, the listing agent, that they always have the TC's card and they have the listing manager's business cards. And you're presenting those at different presentations. And that really cements down the professionalism. So how are you doing on that system? Okay, the next slide real quick is setting expectations for closings. I know I'm going fast, but here's setting expectations for repairs. And so I always make sure that the buyer knows that, you know, we're going to set expectations for repairs. The inspector is going to come back with a whole big list, and all we're really looking for are structural defects, health hazards, things that could cause, you know, safety concerns. So I bring it down, or my assistants are trained to bring it down, that he and she are having those conversations, that we're not looking for the light switch that's crooked. We're not looking for this or that. We're looking for these, you know, really challenging things. So if you go to the next slide, is repeat and referral business. So this is obviously the script that I have by heart because I gave it to you already. And so again, it doesn't matter where you are in the closing process. It matters that you say it and that your team says it. And so there's a very precise system. And so my question is it in your listing checklist to ask for referrals and reviews? Is it in your closing checklist to ask for reviews and referrals? All right, start putting some of your questions in the chat box. I'm going to go fast through the next part. Okay, here's the other system, the database. Okay, so let's talk about database. So are you tracking it? That's your only asset. It's not your Louis Vuitton bag or your Lexus or Mercedes or whatever you're driving. It's your monthly tracking of how you're growing your business. It's just so important. So every single month, an assistant should track what the completes are. Completes are name, address, phone number, and emails. That's a complete. An email and a name is not a complete. Name, address, phone number, and emails. Tracking that growth of your database. Gary Keller says you should grow it at least 3 contacts per day as a single agent. A monthly marketing plan. Do you have a monthly marketing plan? Are you putting a plan together? In that monthly marketing plan, that you're doing a video, or you're doing an open house video, or you're saying, here's the new, you know, did it again, here's the new just listed, here's the new just sold. What is your specific marketing plan that goes out every single month? Do you have 4 client appreciation parties? Have you pivoted to have virtual client appreciation parties? I've got some great things that I'll share in the training that's coming up on the 13th, and that is amazing virtual shredding parties, virtual pie, come get your pie. I got it all set up for you. It's a no-brainer, and the results are amazing. There's one agent in Alaska that has the most terrific results from her pies, because she gets, out of 300 pies that she gave out, she got 67 referrals. There's a secret to that. All right. So monthly marketing plan, smart plan, opportunities pipeline, Facebook ads. So let's go to the next slide. So tracking the growth. So again, as I said, you know, minimum of 3 per day. You have to organize your database. So agent database, team database, vendor, sphere of influence, and past clients. You want to be able to pull those different sections out in command. What percentage of your business comes from the database? So 35% of your business should come from repeat and referral business from your database. But knowing that there are 5 referrals, okay, so listen to this. You've got team referral, that's different than agent referral, that's different than vendor referral, past client, and center of influence. Each one of those categories are different, so you don't want to lump them all together, all right? So how are you doing on a 1 to 10 on this? But these are how you build a great team that grows. So these are foundational bricks. All right, opportunities pipeline in command. On our next slide, that is probably one of my very, very favorite things. It can project the income and project where that person is in the pipeline. Every single team should absolutely demand that the buyer agent puts all leads in command. And as an agent and an executive assistant, as you're starting to build to the 7th level team, you want someone probably putting those leads in there for you. This is the greatest place in the world to keep track of those leads. It's a phenomenal system. All right, the last one we're going to cover is lead generation systems. Next slide. So what are your top 5 sources of business? And so you might have 20 sources of business and 20 different little things are here, or 15, whatever, but you need five really strong, powerful systems. So rate yourself on a 1 to 10. Can you name them? What are they and what percentage of your business, and why aren't they more? How do you double that? Quarterly return on investment. So if you're paying for something or you're paying for a service, paying for Zillow or whatever, you're paying for Facebook ads. Boy, those have been terrific returns. You know, what is the return on investment on those? So each quarter, a great foundational piece is that all the money that you spend on, you know, procuring a sale is absolutely categorized with results in what the return of investment is. You want at least a 4-time return on investment. You just don't want to break even. Market of the month. So I'm sorry, it should be market of the moment. So it's market of the moment. So market of the moment is like right now we're listing short. So what campaigns can you do to find more listings? Are you looking at other sources of business? Are you diving deeper into out of area owner? Or maybe you haven't called expireds and you're starting to see a few. There's an agent, you know, that I coach that has amazing return on expireds, and that's her world. So if you don't have a lot in your market, but pay attention, maybe that's one you're going to circle back on as it changed to market of the moment. All right, your schedule. You need to have it in your schedule on a 1 to 10. Does your buyer agents have it in their schedule? So we had a culture on my team that everybody was there in the morning, and we didn't have meetings until after we did our lead generation. And the assistants didn't bother us. We didn't bother the assistants. We did our lead generation, and we had very precise, what I call a schedule that absolutely was pure, meaning every morning was about lead generation. So you have to have it in your schedule. So how do you rate that on a 1 to 10? Budget. Okay, so you should not spend more than 10 to 12% of your income on marketing. And if you're spending more than that, you have to look at, wow, why, and what's the return of investment? So let's go to the next slide here. So, you know, looking at your 5 sources of business, maybe you're not doing the expireds and FSBOs because we know that the do not call list has gotten pretty gnarly lately, and you got to be careful with that. Probates, referrals, non-owner occupied, open houses have been big this year for so many agents. The last 2 months, Keller Williams has had their biggest growth months as far as agent and production in history. Go figure that. It looks like October is headed for another bang up month, so that's amazing. Social media with campaigns through Command. The Facebook ads have been phenomenal. If you're not doing that, look into it. They'll give you all kinds of great examples. If you go to KWU, there's all kinds of different agents talking about how they did business there. And then the next one let's go to is your schedule. Okay, so on your schedule, it's lead generation, listing appointments, lead follow-up, writing contracts, role play. That's your schedule. That's what you should be doing. If you're building a 7th level team, you should do nothing but those things. There's nothing else for you to do. That's all you do. That's your 80% right there. And then so with that said, when you look at, let's go to the next one, Stephanie. So put your questions in the chat box. I'll answer a few here pretty quick. So here's what I want you to know. These are just the basic systems, and just kind of think about it on a 1 to 10. You know, I ran a team and was the listing specialist, and the owner of the team never walked in the office for 7 years, and every year he netted $1 million. My systems were precise. I had the right people on the bus. And so when you build that, it's very, very easy to get what you want. And so when you look at this, it takes time. So really analyze, is your listing system, is your pending system? What about your referrals? What are you doing there? Are you talking to your clients and building up your repeat business? How's your database? How's your communication with your agents and your team? How about recruiting? You know, are you looking to recruit new team members? So you've got all these complex little spiders that come out of these basic systems. And on the next screen real quick, because I know people will be asking me, the next class is starting next week. And with that said, there are 18 live calls. The first call of every month is for the agent only. And then the next 2 calls each month are for the assistant. So the agent first, the assistant second and third call of each month. They are Zoom calls, and we are switching to Zoom. So we have these live Zoom calls, which I've always done live calls anyway, but I get to see them and make sure that they're paying attention, because I'm going to require that the screen's on or I'll call them out. So there's no multitasking anymore. And so that'll be great. And then on the next slide is how you sign up for the program. And then I'll answer some questions. So we'll go to the next slide, Stephanie. Oh, I guess that was it. Oh, that's right. Okay, there it is. Okay. mapscoaching.com/group starts next week on the 13th. Discount code is WEB100 to save $100 off the first month. So with that said, sign up now. It's $195 a month. And I look forward to having you on these live Zoom calls. You end up with a 450-page policy and procedures manual. Remember, I have the systems where someone can net $1 million a year with the team. So with that said, Stephanie, what are some of our questions real quick?
Okay, so Rich says, for the team you mentioned you ran, what was the total sales dollars volume for the 5 agents? And what was your total staff? What did your total staff look like?
We had, so we made a little over 3 million a year GCI. We did about 220 transactions. San Diego, average sales price was pretty high for most areas. And we had 2 listing specialists, including myself, and 3 buyer agents. And one was kind of a part-time, maybe they showed up. And we had 2 ISAs at all times. And we had 3 full-time assistants and 1 kind of part-time did some property management. So that's kind of, the team would kind of rotate in and out, sometimes 2 buyer agents, sometimes 3, but that was pretty much what it was year round. Okay, next question.
Okay, so how do we get these systems from you? Is it a group coaching class or individual MAPS coach?
Thank you for that question. Of course. All right. So there's 2 classes. The one that's coming up is the Perfect Real Estate Assistant, which is next week. And you end up with all of the systems, the policy and procedures manual for your business to build this. It's all the bricks. You're going to lay all the foundations. The next class is going to be the Perfect Operations Team, where that dives into building a hub, which is a listing specialist, a TC, and also a director of operations going into the 30, 60, 90. So the first class is the one next week with the systems. Then if you wanted individual coaching one-on-one, you certainly can do that. We have a lot of director of operation coaches that have, are able to do that. But the first step is get the foundational pieces before you go to a one-on-one coach or you go to the Perfect Operations Team. So next week on the 13th, I'd sign up for that first. Good question. That's the next one, Steph.
Okay, so several people had the aha of, if you over communicate, you'll have a client for life.
Right. Is anybody going to call you and say, you call too much, we need to cancel our listing? The opposite is true. Never heard from you. Oh no, we're not doing a price improvement. We haven't heard what you're doing to sell our house. So when you over communicate, they will go for the price improvement. They will know that you love them, they trust you. It's called building the relationship. Remember that. Relationship experience over the top. And then the next thing is you get the results. Good one, right? What's next?
That's funny because the next one, it's Elka's aha is RER, relationship experience equals results.
And Elka is from South Africa. I know who Elka is, so welcome South Africa. Yeah, yes. And just to go back to that RER, when I coach an assistant in building a team and an agent, so that's why these calls are great for the agents also, because the agent needs to know what I'm saying to the assistant to help accountability to put the systems in place. The relationships is so critical, and it's not, just a transaction, it's a relationship. And then it's the experience, it's the over-the-top customer service. Hi, Mr. Johnson, it's Stephanie with Monica Reynolds' office. Did I catch you at a good time? Do you have a couple minutes? Great. Monica asked that I call as part of our customer service. So these scripts are so powerful. Monica, I don't know what Stephanie was calling about, but she better use my name every time so it looks like we're a team. So when you listen to these calls and you see the systems, it's duplicatable and scalable. Whether you're doing 10 deals or 110 deals, they're duplicatable and scalable. Or 1,010. We've had people in our classes do over 1,000 transactions. Okay, what else, Steph?
That's right. So what disc type is best suited for an OP or broker associate?
You know, great. The disc type is going to be usually a high D. And if you do the KPA process, those are in there. So there's 37 different categories if you do the KPA. But in most cases, in the leadership, most cases, it's a high D, which is 10% of the population. Now, it doesn't mean everybody needs to strive to be a high D, because they're impatient, they're rude, they're quick to the point, and they talk too fast, just like I am. And so you want what's called versatility. So you want someone who can turn on the charm, they can slow it down, and they have versatility. So I know of plenty of CEOs that are high Cs, plenty of leaders that are high Cs, but they have versatility. And so therefore it's the word's versatility. Okay, what's next, Steph?
How do you go about choosing a good team that works well with you as an agent?
The KPA and the DISC. So I'm a high D, okay? So when I use the KPA and I'm looking for a buyer specialist, they fill out the form. And in that form, it says whether they rated high profile or low profile if they're a great buyer agent. My personality then would look at them and say, okay, here's what the whole disc will tell you too. The KPA tells you how they like to learn, how they like to receive information, how they like to communicate. And so therefore I incorporate that in how I train them and how I speak to them. Every single time I had a problem with an assistant or I had a problem with an agent, I'd go read the KPA before I had a conversation so I knew how to communicate. So Stephanie, if anyone wants to email you, Stephanie@monicareynolds.com. Gary Keller did a KPA on me and you can see his questions. So that helps you. So it's basically you're adapting to how their style is versus they don't adapt to you. All right, what's the next one?
Okay, so Jeff says, Bill Hagan says to tell you hello.
Hi, Bill. Nice to see that you're on the call. Great. Appreciate that. Okay, what else?
How profitable should an ideal team be?
30, 30, 40. So if you follow the MREA, the profit model, and we have a profit camp coming up here in MAPS, it's 30, 30, 40. 30 cost of business, 30 cost of sale, 40% profit. There are many agents who go over the 40 and get more profit. Good job. But 30, 30, 40. So we weren't quite at 40% on my team. Going back to a previous question, we were probably about 33 and a third %. But that was good. Still got $1 million. That's all he wanted. Wanted to get $1 million. Net $1 million, he's good. Hey, everybody, make him happy. I need to net $1 million. All right, what's next, Steph?
Okay, so phase AHA is spending only 10 to 12% on marketing.
Yeah, and you know, you don't even need to spend that sometimes so much, you know, getting off of Zillow and looking at smart plans and what Command can do and what Facebook can do, doing your own videos and doing your emails and doing a client appreciation party and having the vendors support that and pay for that. They're not writing you checks. I know RESPA, but I have whole systems where, you know, that doesn't cost you money. Printing shouldn't cost you money. If you have somebody else put a logo here and there, they can do printing for you, other vendors that you support. So vendors are a big part of my team, and vendors are absolutely contributors. And I understand RESPA, they're not writing me a check, but they're contributing at a high level. I'm getting a referral once a month from them. They're contributing to client appreciation parties. If I need something printed, they help me out because I know marketing. A lot of them can do that. Texas is really rough with their title. They really don't do anything, but there are plenty of states where you can get them to help support your business. And I cover that a lot because I'm big into vendors helping. Okay, what's next?
Steve says, I have an assistant that works only about 15 hours a week. Would this be an appropriate class?
Yeah, the answer is, of course it would, because the systems are going to get built. And then as you grow your business in volume, because the assistant is taking more and more off your plate, and she becomes 20 hours, then 30, then 40. And so the systems have to go into place. So absolutely, I highly recommend you make the investment, but I want you to make sure that you make the investment too, that you're on those calls, the first call of every single month. I show you how to have a team, keep a team. Losing team members is extremely expensive, and I share with you how to keep a team and what they're going to be learning each month. The other thing I think is important is that this investment builds this policy and procedures manual. And so I highly recommend you make that investment and join the calls. Okay, what's next?
What if we cannot make the time slot that the class is in?
Okay, so if you can't make the time slot, then all the calls are recorded. Okay, and so the class is 6 months long. At the end of 6 months, the calls are still good for 2 more months after that in all the handouts. Again, you'll get about 450 pages of a policy and procedure handout, and you get sections each week that we go through. The first 3 calls are about communication and all the communication systems for the buyer, the sellers, the clients, et cetera, the assistants. And so I go through all of those scripts and everything there. So just remember that you know, this is putting systems into place. So, you know, it's on October 13th. Please sign up, use Web 100. You go to mapscoaching.com/group, pull up Perfect Real Estate Assistant, and you're in. mapscoaching.com/group, then go to click Perfect Real Estate Assistant. Okay, what else, Steph?
When asking your real estate assistant to complete a KPA, do you assign the role as listing assistant or executive assistant?
You know, they're both in there. So I would go, if this is your first hire, it would be executive assistant, because you need them to be what I call multi-purpose, doing everything. You could put, if your emphasis is going to be a transaction coordinator, you can put transaction coordinator in there. So either one, you're going to be fine. You just want to make sure that they have some sort of an aptitude for being an assistant. And you can always do both. You can have them scored on both if you like. Okay, what's next?
Okay, so
2 tests, you can just rescore it.
is there ever a time when the listing agent works with buyers they switch roles, buyers agents and listing agents?
No, because there's 2 different skills. It's 2 different personality types. A good buyer agent normally is a high I, and they like people. A good listing agent is usually a high D that gets to the point, has a presentation. Low. Okay, so let's move forward. Sign the contract. A buyer, so there's 2 different personality styles. So you're asking a really big global question. There are many agents that can do listings and work buyers. And yet when you're building a 7th level team, you have buyer agents, you have listing agents, and they support each other in their 2 different skill sets. It's just like a listing manager and a TC, 2 different skill sets, 2 different personality styles, 2 different ways to interact with a client. So you have to remember that. Can they start out the same and then you start to break it off? That's the ideal. That's the ideal. Steph, let's do one more question and we'll let everybody go. And I appreciate everybody staying on the call. That's great. So what do we got?
Okay, Mackenzie says, where do you rank hiring and onboarding in the importance of the systems?
Where do I rank hiring and onboarding in the?
So we just gave five systems just now.
Oh, what's important in the systems? Well, the first one is communication. The second one is database. They've got to learn that. So when you're bringing on an assistant, they've got to learn how to handle the phone. They got to learn how to handle a client. They got to know how to communicate with you. They got to do the Friday report. They got to do the database, and then they should process a listing. Those 3 things first. Those 3 things first is in the first 30 days, which I go through. I do an extensive hiring process. Career visioning is great, but I have a very clear hiring process. The 60 days in, that's when you teach them or they learn how to do a closing and they learn numbers. And then the last 90 days is they get all the marketing, all the closings and everything. Then in that next 90 days, they've been introduced to everything at a high level, and on a 1 to 10 should be a 7, 8, 9 for sure, Okay. All right. So everybody, again, mapscoaching.com/group. I'm Monica Reynolds, perfect real estate assistant. Click on there, put in Web 100, save $100. And if you have any other questions, monica@kw.com. I'm happy to answer them. Thank you guys for being on the calls. I appreciate that. Thank you for scheduling time to hear what I have to say. I look forward to talking to you. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. Thanks, Stephanie. Thanks, Angel. Bye-bye.